It's July of 1903 in the sweltering textile mills of Kensington, Philadelphia. The air is thick with cotton dust and the deafening roar of machinery. Children as young as 8 years old stand on wooden boxes just to reach the spinning frames. Their tiny fingers dart in and out of the whirling belts until one day a finger disappears, or a hand, or an arm. And into this living nightmare walked a white-haired, 66-year-old woman in a black dress and black hat, her eyes burning with fury. Her name was Mary Harris Jones, but the world would soon know her as Motherjones. The U.S. government literally called her the most dangerous woman in America. She carried the fire of truth against a system that crushed human lives for profit. She went from an Irish immigrant child to hell-raising legend who bucked the entire mining system and helped change America forever. Most people think of Mother Jones as a fiery old lady who showed up at miners' strikes. Her greatest and most unforgettable battle was not fought underground. It was fought on the open road, a grueling 100-mile march of broken children who had nothing left to lose. This is the true story of one elderly Irish immigrant who decided the only way to save America's children was to march them straight to the doorstep of the President of the United States. Let's take a walk and I'll tell you her story. Mary was born in the 1830s. She was born in Cork, Ireland, to poor Catholic tenant farmers Richard and Ellen Harris. Mary's father left Ireland for North America around 1835. The rest of the family stayed behind. Her family lived there during the horrors of the potato famine. According to Mary's autobiography, he worked with railway construction crews, became a U.S. citizen, and eventually settled in Toronto, Canada. He then sent for his family in Ireland. They endured the worst years of starvation and disease in Cork before migrating to Canada. The Irish potato famine between 1845 and 1852 was a catastrophic period of mass starvation and disease. It killed roughly 1 million people and drove another 1 million to emigrate, causing Ireland's population to drop by about 20 to 25% overall. Life in Toronto wasn't easy, but Mary was smart and determined. She went to school, she trained as a teacher and a dressmaker, and she aspired for something better. Her first job was teaching at a convent school in Monroe, Michigan, where she earned a modest $8 a month. She later moved to Chicago as a seamstress, then to Memphis, Tennessee for another teaching post. In 1861, she married George E. Jones. He was a skilled iron molder and an active member of the Iron Molders Union. She was exposed to labor organizing ideas due to George's union involvement. They had 4 children, 3 girls and a boy, all under the age of 5 by 1867. That same year, a yellow fever epidemic swept Memphis, Tennessee. Yellow fever is primarily caused by a virus transmitted by mosquitoes. It thrives in warm, humid climates and breeds in small amounts of standing water. Memphis sat on low, wet land near the Mississippi River with bayous, open street gutters, and areas that frequently held stagnant water mixed with sewage and garbage. This turned the city into a prime mosquito breeding site. These conditions allowed the disease to explode. Once mosquitoes picked it up from infected people, it spread further. The rich families of Memphis fled the area, but working-class families like Mary's, well, they suffered. One by one, Mary's 4 children became ill and passed away. She washed their bodies for burial. Then her husband caught the fever and died as well. She later wrote, "I sat alone through nights of grief. No one came to me. No one could." She nursed others until the plague passed, then returned to Chicago. She reopened a dressmaking shop catering to the wealthy, and she observed the stark contrast between Lakeshore Drive mansions and the jobless poor shivering by the frozen lake. Many strong people come from hardships, and there were never a shortage of hardships placed on Mary. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire destroyed her home, her dress shop, and all her possessions. Homeless and grieving, she camped with refugees at Old St. Mary's Church. She joined the Union and began organizing. She viewed industrial capitalism as a new form of slavery, and back then, it was. In the 1870s, the U.S. Census counted about 750,000 workers under the age of 15. That was roughly 1 in 8 children. Many children labored 10 to 14 plus hours a day, 6 days a week, often in dangerous conditions for very low pay. Families relied on their income, and employers preferred children because they were cheaper, smaller, and less likely to strike. Children worked in textile mills and factories, especially in the northeast and southern mills. Their small size helped them crawl under equipment. They worked in hot, humid, noisy environments with machinery risks, crushed fingers, and exhaustion. Children as young as 5 to 8 years old, mostly boys, worked underground as breaker boys in mines, sorting coal, removing impurities with high risks of crushed hands. Others hauled carts with poor ventilation that led to lung disease. Children carried hot glass or worked near furnaces at glass factories. There were children working as newsboys, messengers, chimney sweepers, construction workers, shoe shiners, metal workers, and peddlers in cities. Italian immigrant children in New York were sometimes exploited as street performers. These same conditions applied to adults, and there was low wages, wage cuts, no health and safety laws were in place or enforced. The workers were at the mercy of the owners of these companies, and there was no mercy. The 1870s marked the rise of the labor unions, but the real gains came later. By the mid-1870s, Mary was traveling the country supporting strikes. She slept in miners' shacks, ate their food, and fought beside them. She spent decades bucking the system, but nothing prepared her for what she found in the silk and textile mills of Philadelphia in the spring of 1903. 75,000 workers were on strike, and at least 10,000 of them were children, some as young as 6 years old. They worked 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, in rooms so hot the air shimmered. Many of these kids had already lost fingers, hands, and eyes to the machines. Their bodies were stunted. Their spirits had been crushed before they had ever learned how to read. The mill owners didn't care. The newspapers barely mentioned it, and the public looked the other way. Motherjones, she looked straight into it. She decided that she would make the entire nation look with her. On July 7, 1903, she stood before a crowd in Kensington and announced her plan. "We are going to march," she declared, "from Philadelphia to New York City. And then we're going to march all the way to Oyster Bay, Long Island, to the summer home of President Theodore Roosevelt. We will show the nation what child labor really looks like." She called it the March of the Mill Children. At first, around 100 children showed up, along with a handful of parents. Many were barefoot. Some had bandages on their hands where fingers used to be. They carried homemade signs that read, "We only ask for justice. We want to go to school. More schools, less hospitals. We want time to play." Motherjones walked in the front wearing her black dress, with a small American flag in one hand and a bullhorn in the other. The first day they walked 12 miles in the brutal heat. By nightfall, their feet were bleeding. They camped in fields and on the sides of roads. There was little food and almost no money. But every evening, in whatever town they reached, Motherjones held a rally. She stood on wagons or boxes. She gathered children around her, holding up their mangled hands for the crowds to see. "These little children," she would roar, "these broken babies built the mansions of Philadelphia millionaires. Their blood is on every brick, and I say to you, 1 hour of justice is worth an age of praying." The crowds grew, reporters started following, and by the time they reached Trenton, New Jersey, thousands of people lined the streets. In Princeton, the university students came out to cheer. In every town, Motherjones gave the same fiery speech that she called the Wail of the Children. The children were exhausted and some dropped out. Others got sick, but the ones who stayed kept walking, because for the first time in their short, brutal lives, someone was fighting for them like they mattered. On July 23rd, after more than 2 weeks on the road, the weary children crossed into New York. 30,000 people turned out to greet them. Motherjones had become a national sensation. She looked at the tired children and let them know she wasn't finished. "We're not stopping in New York," she told them. "We're going on to Oyster Bay. We're going to knock on the president's door." On July 28th, Motherjones, accompanied by 3 of the youngest and most disabled boys, made the final leg of the journey to Sagamore Hill. It was Theodore Roosevelt's sprawling summer estate on Long Island. They were stopped at the gate. The president's secretary told Motherjones that President Roosevelt was unavailable and had no time for unscheduled visitors. He suggested she write a letter instead. Motherjones stood there in the July heat with 3 injured children and refused to leave. She wrote the letter on the spot. In it, she pleaded for the president to use his power to protect America's children. Roosevelt's reply came back days later. He expressed sympathy, but said that under the Constitution, child labor was a matter for the states, not the federal government. So his hands were tied and he could do nothing. Motherjones, she wasn't finished. She read the letter in front of reporters and spoke the words that would be quoted for generations. It is a very sad commentary on the president of our nation that the plea of suffering of little children who walked 100 miles should be turned down. The irony was cruel. On the very same day Roosevelt refused to meet the marchers, he took his own healthy, well-fed sons and nephews camping under the stars, giving them the childhood that only mill children could dream of. The march officially came to a halt. The Philadelphia textile strike eventually ended, and many of those children were forced back into the mills. But something had changed forever. Newspapers across the country had carried the story. Photographs of the ragged children and the fierce old woman in black were printed from coast to coast. And who was delivering those newspapers? The children. Within 3 years, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York all passed new child labor laws, the first real restrictions in the nation's history. No child under 14 could work in factories, and night work for children was banned. Motherjones had lost the battle in Philadelphia, but she won the war for public attention. She would go on to fight in the coal fields of West Virginia, the copper mines of Colorado, and the garment factories of New York. She was arrested more times than she could count. She was called a Red and a socialist, and the grandmother of all agitators. In the rugged hills of West Virginia in 1912, a private army of gunmen hired by coal barons stand shoulder to shoulder with rifles ready. Machine guns are mounted on the ridges, and walking straight into their crosshairs was a tiny white-haired grandmother in a plain black dress and laced collar. The guards sneered, "Who are you, old lady?" She stares them down and answers with a voice that could shake mountains. "I'm Mother Jones, and I'm here for my boys." One crooked finger from this woman, and thousands of unfazed miners would lay down their tools and strike. On February 13th, 1913, when she was around 82 years old, Mother Jones was arrested in Charleston, West Virginia, during the violent Paint Creek, Cabin Creek coal miners' strike. It was a miners' strike for basic rights against the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency's guards, who evicted families and patrolled with machine guns. Martial law was declared multiple times. Mother Jones organized in secret, rallying around thousands. She led a march of 3,000 armed miners towards the state capitol. Violence exploded, and there were shootouts and deaths on both sides. Between March 7th and the 14th of 1913, she and about 47 other civilians were tried by a military court on charges of murder and conspiracy to murder. This was the only time in U.S. history since the Civil War that civilians were tried by a military tribunal in this way. She was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in the state penitentiary. She was briefly held in a military prison, then placed under house arrest. She developed pneumonia and was released after roughly 85 days, largely due to national outrage and a U.S. Senate investigation that was pushed through by Senator John W. Kern in May of 1913. Months later, the fight moved to Colorado's southern coal fields. The war was against the Rockefeller-owned Colorado Fuel and Iron Company. Once again, Mother Jones organized miners demanding fair wages, 8-hour days, and an end to the brutal guard system. Many times, the miners were paid in script. It replaced real money. Script could only be used in grocery stores and other local businesses owned by the mining companies. It was worthless money outside their corrupt system. What a monopoly. She was arrested again, then confined to a hospital before being deported from the state. While she was away, roughly 1,200 striking miners and their families had been living in a tent colony after being evicted from company housing. The company and the Colorado National Guard troops hired guards to open fire on the colony with machine guns. Then they set the tents on fire. At least 21 people were killed, including 2 women and 11 children. Mother Jones spent months traveling the country telling the story of the Ludlow Massacre, testifying before Congress and keeping the national spotlight on the slaughter. Mother Jones kept working, and in 1924, At roughly 87 years old and so crippled by arthritis that she could no longer hold a pen, she made her last public strike appearance in Chicago. She stood with striking dressmakers during a brutal 4-month lockout. Hundreds of them were arrested and blacklisted, but Motherjones was still there, still preaching, pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living. At the age of 88, she published her autobiography, but nothing she ever did matched the raw power of that summer in 1903, when an old woman with nothing left to lose led an army of broken children on a march that forced America to finally see what it had been doing to its own sons and daughters. Motherjones died in 1930 at the age of 93. I wanted to learn more about those 3 children who followed Motherjones to the president's home. Here's what I found. James Ashworth was 10 years old in 1903 when he marched with Motherjones. He worked in a carpet factory. He carried 75-pound bundles of yarn all day, which left him stooped over like an old man. He earned $3 a week, and his 14-year-old sister earned $6 a week. Motherjones used him as her prime example of how child labor stole education and health. Here's a textbook on economics, she'd say, pointing at him while speaking to crowds and college students. Later claims say he lost his left hand in a machine. Those details do not appear in Motherjones' writings or any 1903 newspaper accounts that I can find. It may be a mix-up with many other children, or maybe it happened to him later. The next child was Eddie Dunphy. He was age 12 at the time. His job was to sit on a stool 11 hours a day, handing the correct thread to another worker while surrounded by dangerous spinning machinery. He was paid $3 a week. Motherjones specifically named him during her speeches, and she noted that he was still with the march when the group had dwindled to 20 people. No other details survive. No records of what happened to him after the march, whether he survived the mills or if he ever escaped that life. The last child is Gussie Rangnew. Her age is unknown. The child packed stockings in a factory 11 hours a day for just a few cents. Motherjones' description is the most haunting. A little girl from whom all the childhood had gone. Her face was like an old woman's. Some later claims she had a mangled hand from a loom or was stunted by malnutrition, and she was only 8 years old. Again, those specifics aren't in Motherjones' original account. The core truth Motherjones emphasized was that Gussie had already lost every trace of being a child. After Motherjones died, a funeral mass was held at St. Gabriel's Catholic Church in Washington, D.C. Then her body was placed on a train and carried west to Mount Olive, Illinois, exactly where she had asked to be buried years earlier. She was buried beside the miners that she called her boys.